You ever try to convince someone, and even though all the data is on your side and you're making your case really well, that despite that, you're still not winning them over? In fact, they're disagreeing with you even harder? Well, to help understand why that happens and what we could do to become more persuasive, I recently interviewed Stephen Denning, this man right here. He is the author of several books, including The Secret Language of Leadership. And I said, Stephen, can you teach us why the way we try to persuade often doesn't work and what we need to do to become more persuasive? Because if we're in business, all we do is persuade. Well, here's his explanation of why all that data-rich argument doesn't work.
When we have an opinion about a subject and someone gives us reasons about why that opinion might be wrong, our immediate tendency is not to change our opinion, but instead to lower our opinion of the information or the source coming into it. And this has been studied in all sorts of different countries and contexts, very pervasive phenomenon. One of the studies was done in 2004 in the course of the presidential campaign, John Kerry versus George W. Bush. And they put in front of 30 people, 15 strong Democrats and 15 strong Republicans, blatantly self-contradictory statements by the two candidates. And what they found was the Republicans loved the statements that supported their point of view and found ingenious reasons to dismiss the other statement, and likewise the Democrats. So the two groups were even more deeply entrenched in their positions at the end of the day, despite.
All right, so the more data you give people that disagrees with what they believe, the harder they fight it, and the more entrenched they become in their own side. All right, so if data doesn't work, if that's not what persuades, well, I said, Stephen Denning, tell us what does work. And his answer is storytelling. Let me see if I get you. There it is. Here's a piece that he told me about that. Why storytelling works is what he's going to talk about here.
Story works on the right side of the brain. People actually live the experience. They breathe the experience. They identify with the hero of the story. They become the hero of the story in their own mind. And these analytical weapons, these analytical tools are left on the ground while they are experiencing the story, going with the flow of the story. And so having lived the story, having breathed the story, having become the story, they then start to see the world in a different way. And if the story is going well, they're starting to think, well, that was pretty interesting. And I mean, I could do that in my world.
All right, so there it is. So stories help get around people's resistance. They start identifying with your stories and want to become the hero that you're talking about. All right, so in the program, he and I spent a little bit of time talking about how to create the right story, how to tell it, how to practice it, how to make sure that you're doing it persuasively. And it's not as hard as it sounds. But if you download the program that he and I recorded, you'll get a lot of insight into how to do that, and you'll be able to start telling stories really well. But I also, in my conversation with him, wanted him to give us practical examples. So I whipped out my iPhone and I said, look at all the books that I have back here. What if I wanted to persuade publishers to make their books available on my iPhone? How would I persuade them using story? And here's a little bit of how he showed me to do that. And again, the reason I asked him for that example is to illustrate his ideas on storytelling and to just make it easier for you to understand how to tell a story to convince people of your point of view. All right, here's that clip.
And the criterion is who would be the hero that the audience would most likely empathize with. So you're talking to two publishers. I mean, a prima facie, other things being equal, a publisher would be a hero that they would be more likely to empathize with. Here's someone who was skeptical about iPhones, didn't believe it, thought it was bullshit, and then one day they actually imported some material in it, and wow, they suddenly thought this is real. And they did this, they changed that, they enabled them to do all sorts of things they hadn't been able to do before, and they became passionate users of it. Now that, you'd have to actually have a true story, would have to be true.
All right, so that's just a short summary of how you would find a story and tell a story that would help make your case. He and I, as I said, spent a lot more time than that. We spent, let me see, about 45 minutes going over why storytelling works and data doesn't, how you can find the right story, how you can tell the right story. Anyway, download the program and you'll get a lot more than that. Till next time, I'm Andrew Warner, founder of mixergy.com, home of the ambitious startup And if you are ambitious, you want to persuade people, so this program will help you do that.